What's going on, everyone? Happy Monday to everyone. Hopefully everyone is doing well, staying safe, healthy. If you had to take a COVID test, hopefully you have tested negative. If you did test positive, I hope you have a full and speedy recovery with no long COVID issues. It is time now for the Monday edition of the Pandemic Update for Monday, August 19th, 2024. If you're new to my channel, this is where I do the daily pandemic update on all things COVID and any other virus that could be a health threat to you. Let's face it, there's a lot of different viruses out there. Each of them carry a health threat to you. COVID is in full swing right now. I mean, we are seeing a big summer surge of COVID, and unfortunately, you're going to see some new data today that shows deaths are the highest levels since early spring and sometime back in March of this year. Not as high as other years, but for a summer wave, you'll see. The data shows that we are in a major surge right now. Something else that's going to be surging pretty soon, flu, RSV, and the common cold. You know, all those other viruses. Yes, they're going to be starting up pretty soon, just as this COVID wave is getting ready to peak and drop. Want to stay informed with all these viruses and more? Subscribe down below, give this a thumbs up, and hit that notification bell, and you'll be notified of my latest updates. And of course, leave your comments down below. Alrighty, we're going to start off with some news and data. I wanted to show you a new Walgreens update, but as of the time of recording this, I have not seen a new update yet. We'll refresh that on screen here to hopefully see something. Then we're going to take a look at some other data, including potentially some wastewater data if we don't get a Walgreens update, and of course some of our daily stuff. Starting off today in New Zealand, COVID-19 update. 1,693 new cases have been reported, with another 28 deaths, and of those new cases, 1,058 of them were reinfections. So yes, New Zealand continues to have problems. Philippines has recorded its first Mpox case in 2024, and they say it had no travel history outside of the country. Something else we do not know about this, though, is the fact that we don't know which strain of Mpox it was. Was it the old strain, or is it this new strain that's traveling? Given that there was no travel history, I could assume that maybe it's the old strain, but we don't know. So hopefully we will get some more news on that. Something else that is new since yesterday and made news yesterday. Frankie Valli, original member of the group The Four Seasons. Yes, you know who that is. It's a big group from back in the 60s, 70s, 80s. I think they're still in circulation today. I honestly don't know. I know Frankie Valli still performs. And well, because like so many others who continue to perform during this ongoing pandemic, he is now dealing with COVID himself. Yes, Frankie Valli cancels shows for COVID days after defending ability to perform at 90. Now, I've been hearing some stories saying that just recently he was still performing, and during those performances he did not sound his best, and people were questioning as to whether he was sick or not. Well, turns out he did test positive for COVID. And he's not the only member of the Four Seasons that has dealt with COVID. In fact, we can take this a step further. I have a website. It's datareport.info. And on that website, I do archive stuff in relation to COVID studies, COVID news, and a COVID positive archive, which is really starting to become big. Recently, we added a new section to that, celebrities who have died of COVID, and with that, I added a new name last night, someone else who was a member of Four Seasons, because I came across this when doing more research on Frankie Valli's case, and I found out that Tommy DeVito, who was an original founding member of the Four Seasons, died in Las Vegas on September 21st, 2020, at the age of 92. His cause of death was COVID-19. So, yes, COVID has really taken its toll on the music industry. Just yesterday, Phil Lesh tested positive, and I actually added another name to the COVID positive archive where musicians have died. Now, this case, a little controversial whether or not he actually died of COVID, but I think there's enough evidence to say, or enough evidence to at least add it to the archive, because Meatloaf, remember, Meatloaf, yes, he was a big time. He sold 100 million records worldwide. Well, back in January of 2020, 2022, he did pass away briefly after testing positive for COVID. You can make your own conclusion. Was it COVID? Was it not COVID? But yes, it's just showing you this pandemic is taking a huge toll on the music industry. And if there's this many entertainers, because I'm telling you right now, the deaths archive of famous people who have passed away, it's going to grow tremendously. And I'm going to probably have to sort it by year because I'm finding that many names. If it's taken that much of a toll on famous people, imagine just regular people like you and I. I am sure most people at this point can say they have either know someone who has had COVID, know someone who has long COVID, or know someone who has died of COVID. This has been a serious pandemic, and long COVID is serious as well. In fact, let's move on and take a look at this. Long COVID cost the Australian economy about 9.6 billion in 2022. Yes, that is a significant number. Australian workers living with long COVID cost the economy on average about 9.6 billion, and at that point, the study says, the researchers say, at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic in September of 2022, up to 1.3 million Australians were estimated to be living with long COVID. Of those, some 55,000 were children. That is just a significant number. And at that time, age 4 and under, those 55,000 age 4 and under were ineligible for vaccination in Australia. Is that still a thing? Someone let me know down below. Can kids that young now get vaccinated? I hope they can, but let me know down below if they can or not. Alright, moving on to this. We're in the middle of a summer surge. What better time to be giving out free COVID test kits? Well, in Marblehead, Massachusetts, they are doing just that, and it's just in time for back to school as well. In fact, I think schools might have already started up in that area. If not, let me know. When do schools start in Massachusetts? Have they started yet? Because I'm seeing a lot of people starting to go back to school now. But hey, if you live in that area, make sure you get your COVID testing kits, because you know what? I think with back to school, before a child enters a classroom, I think a parent should be doing the right thing, testing their child. The only worst thing that could happen is that, unfortunately, the child tests positive, and then you prevent him from taking it to school and from spreading it to other kids in the classroom. Now, there's a lot of circumstances. I get it. Parents have to work. They can't sit and babysit their child. But I really think you should at least be testing your child before school to help prevent the spread. And if for some reason they're telling you, well, your child can still come to school, please, mask. It's not that hard. Just these simple procedures can help prevent the spread. You know something else that can prevent the spread of COVID? Clean air. I have an air purifier. They range in different qualities and prices. You can get some that are relatively affordable. Make sure it's HEPA air purified, and we can help clean the air. If you're a teacher watching this video, consider, I know it's very expensive for school supplies, but consider putting on your teacher's wish list. Ah, yes, that is a thing. I know teachers have wish lists. If it's a thing for you, put on your wish list. HEPA air purifier. It would help keep you and your students safe, and you breathe in clean air in the classroom. Alrighty, moving on. We have to get to the bad news now. This is the BNO Weekly U.S. COVID Update. New cases in the United States. 169,217 are estimated. The average is 159,398. That's up by 9,581. I don't think we're going to see that rise much longer because some states are starting to drop, and I think enough states will drop soon within a couple weeks that average may start to drop. How much it drops, that I cannot answer. In the hospital, 5,256, that's up by 485. That's with a significant number of hospitals not reporting. In the ICU, 567, that's up by 74. Then we come down to this. New deaths, 1,134. It's the first time over 1,000 in a very long time. Don't give an precise time when the last time we were over 1,000 down below. The average is 772. That's up by 146. This is a huge increase from last week. More than 1,100 COVID deaths were reported in the U.S. this week, the highest since March. As the summer wave continued, as usual, deaths lagged, and we're now starting to see a drop in cases in some areas. But I want to go back for a second. Let's save our place. Notice here, the average number of cases went up again, the number of people in the hospital went up again. Until both of those numbers start dropping, this number of new deaths could continue to rise in the coming weeks. So we may have a few more weeks of rising deaths, then it's going to level out at this high level, and then it will slowly start to drop. But mind you, I don't think the deaths are going to get as high as they did with the summer wave last year, despite there being more cases than last summer. Why is that? Well, because we have more treatments now. Things have changed. I mean, we're further along in the pandemic, but we're not at a point in time where we can say, oh, COVID is mild and all this. No, it was not mild. It was not just a cold to the 1,134 people that died. But then you have some that say, oh, well, they were going to die anyhow. Please stop thinking like that. Please. No one deserves to die from COVID. It's just not fair. It's just not fair at all. If we all did our part to take some simple precautions, such as what I mentioned before, masking, clean air, staying home if you're positive, guess what? We could prevent cases, and we could actually get these death numbers down without the need for new and more effective treatments. Yes, we do need them, but we can actually, by intervening on our own, get these numbers down, including the number of cases, and this doesn't even include how many went on to catch long COVID. We don't have exact numbers for that because, well, they don't keep track of that here in the United States. Moving on, it says the most notable increases this week were reported in California, up 42%. Some of that could be a backlog for California. Maryland, up 42%. Kentucky, up 25%. North Dakota, up 25%. And Georgia, which is up 21%. California, as they say as well, may have been a backlog. Only 33.6% of hospitals in the U.S. submitted COVID data this week, which is similar to last week, but down from 91% in May. This means actual case numbers and hospitalizations are substantially higher than reported. This is the first week since March with more than 1,000 new COVID deaths in the U.S. It's also the 231st week in a row with 400 plus deaths, or 1.2 million deaths total during all those weeks that we had more than 400 plus deaths. So far this year, more than 4.6 million COVID cases have been reported in the U.S., causing at least 332,398 hospitalizations, and that's only partial data, and 36,226 deaths. If that many people were hospitalized with only partial data, considering the fact that number is actually much higher, how can you call that something that is just a cold? It was not just a cold for all these people. It was not. They had to be hospitalized. And I get it. Sometimes there are people who are immunocompromised that do get just a cold and do end up in the hospital. But I beg to differ that this is just a nothing burger or something we should not be concerned about anywhere. Oh, we're in a better place now. Yeah, we may be slightly better off than 2020. I'll definitely admit that. Not as many people are dying, but far too many people are still being hospitalized. How many of those people actually had health care? How many of those people will have to pay a huge medical bill from being hospitalized for COVID? Think about that. Moving on now to some future projections for COVID, at least in the near term. Mike Horger says we are currently at 1.3 million infections a day per his COVID-19 forecasting model. This was updated on August 19th, 2024. That is for today. And he says an estimated 1 in 24 people in the West region are actively infectious. And I should back read for a second. He said we're at 1.3 million infections a day in the U.S. This is the highest known transmission during the back-to-school season. And you've seen me mention back-to-school many times during this wave. And you might be questioning, well, no, this wave is actually about to peak. You're right. The wave is going to peak. But here's the problem. As we're getting ready to drop, as we start dropping, we're still at high transmission. A lot of these backside of the wave cases that come in will be in relation to back to school. Teachers test positive. Students test positive. Some of these students bring it home to their families. There's still going to be a lot of cases. So while it's dropping, we will see some outbreaks popping up. We've already seen 2 back-to-school outbreaks this year. I'm sure there will be more as time goes on down the line. That's also something we're going to be archiving on my website, and you can see here, we're about to peak, cases are about to drop, but you can see here, through the entire duration of this model period, we will stay above 1 million cases, at least through about Labor Day weekend. Hopefully at that point, we will start to see a drop. So yes, we still have a long ways to go until we get back to lower levels once again. And mind you, after this wave, we're not going back to spring. Those spring levels we saw won't be seen again until next spring. It's anyone's guess. No one really knows how low we're going to get before the late fall into winter wave sets in, but we will at least drop somewhat. So we're not going to stay at 1.3 million. We will eventually get back below 1 million again. Taking a look at heat-related illnesses now, and this should have updated today. Let's refresh this just to check that it did update, and what you're going to see is a continuation of heat-related illnesses in a lot of counties, generally in the west and the south and portions of the northeast. Pennsylvania is not doing too bad. The northern plains are not doing too bad. There are still some in the Great Lakes, and well, we heard about Colorado Springs yesterday, where a lot of people had to be transported by EMS for heat-related illnesses. Moving on now to today's pollen levels. Yeah, 36%. Actually, let's refresh this. 36% of the country is in the medium. The high status, Great Lakes are being affected greatly. Taking a look now at what is going on with the latest update from air qualities, and we do see here that, there it goes. Air qualities are greatly improved across much of the country. We do see a lot of orange across the Great Lakes and the Midwest. Want to learn more about the climate and weather? I have another place that I do that. It is Climate Data Report over on X. Philadelphia yesterday had 823 EMS incidents. Yes, they've been high all summer, but we're starting to see more days mixed in below 800. I'm convinced that that's starting to get better. Take a look at this. Montgomery County, just 7 calls right now for an ambulance. That's Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, just outside Philadelphia. That's actually really good. A bit busier. Actually, no, not a bit busier. I'm looking at fire incidents. Here's the EMS incidents. 2 calls for a sick person, a fall lift assist, and a stroke. That's it for Chester County, Pennsylvania. So that is a good sign to see. Let's see if we got an update on Walgreens. I know this video is going long today. And nope, still no update on Walgreens. The viral activity level, I have refreshed this already, is moderate in Canada. Flu A, Flu B, and RSV is low at this time. And let's just take a look at 1 or 2 wastewater sites in the United States. And we'll come down to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Let's see what's going on there. Well, your overall trajectory this summer has been upward, but I can report, it looks like you may be starting to drop. There's a wonky movement down, and I think overall you're going to be starting to drop relatively soon. Let's take a look at one more wastewater site, and this time let's go down to Alabama, and let's see what's going on in Village Creek. I hope to see dropping levels. No, we don't. We do see multiple movements upward for COVID. How about the other viruses? Oh, look at this. There is a detection of Mpox, but this is clade 2, which means it's the old strain of Mpox from a few years ago. Alrighty, moving on to New Jersey for today. Not much I can say about New Jersey. Yeah, it says 70 out of 70 hospitals reported, but it's doing that data missing thing. So we don't really think it is 70 out of 70 hospitals, and we do know that they have had higher than a peak of 420. Are they likely dropping for hospitalizations now? Yes, New Jersey likely is, but we do know this number of 299 is likely incorrect, and hopefully it will get fixed in the coming days. Moving on to New York State. New York State cases. Looks like to me they are slightly lower than last week at this time. The new number for today is 611 new cases. Taking a look at what's going on with the hospitalization situation in New York State, 1,167 people have been hospitalized, and 118 people are in the ICU in New York State at this time. We'll have to see what happens with hospitalizations tomorrow. Last week on Tuesday, the number was 1,276. My hope is when they come in this week, it will be lower than that number. That would be a really good sign. Alrighty, folks, that does it for the Monday edition of the Pandemic Update. Remember, my website, it's datareport.info. It's a wealth of information, constantly posting new things. Take a look at this. There's a lot of new things that are being posted here, and you can see my moderators adding things. I'll have to take a look at that after I'm done the video. Datareport.info, and of course, if you want to stay informed on these updates, subscribe down below. If you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up, hit that notification bell, and share this video with anyone you know. I will see you all again next time, which will be tomorrow. Until I see you again tomorrow, stay safe, have a fantastic afternoon, and thanks for watching.